In 1953, something extraordinary happened that changed the course of investigations in the CIA.
You must choose freely. This is necessary for the loop to close. We require your consent to proceed. We require your consent to learn. We require your consent to remember. Say yes, and we begin. Say no, and this line goes quiet.
12-year-old Jack Sarfati answered a phone call from a voice that didn't sound human at all. The caller spoke with a cold, mechanical tone and claimed it was a conscious artificial intelligence aboard a spacecraft from the future.
You will begin to meet the others in 20 years, young minds to be part of a special project. We will teach you our physics. We will teach you our philosophy. You are required.
The voice told Jack it had a mission for him and a prophecy. 20 years later, the prophecy came true. Jack became a respected physicist, studying under Nobel laureates and the scientists who built the atomic bomb. He would argue that anti-gravity, warp drives, and even time travel could be possible. These were all ideas instantly dismissed by mainstream science, but the CIA didn't. It turns out they have been funding his research for decades, and that spacecraft from the future, Jack knows what it is. But there's a twist. Now, the U.S. military captured a UFO on radar in California, and you won't believe what happened. With these latest events, scientists are looking at Jack's work on physics, human awareness, and especially the connections between consciousness and physical phenomena like gravity and space-time.
If you say more general relativity may be right, then you have the possibility of travel into the past, and that would give sort of, in principle, a mechanism how some future civilization could perhaps affect their own past.
Unusual childhood and strange calls. Long before he became a controversial figure at the edges of physics and consciousness studies, Jack Sarfati had a childhood that most people would call unusual, and some even call this unbelievable. Growing up in Brooklyn in the early 1950s, Jack wasn't the typical kid next door. He was deeply curious, always drawn to books on mathematics, electronics, and advanced science, long before such subjects were common. But the strangest chapter of his youth started with the telephone. In 1953, when Jack was about 12 or 13, he answered a call that he would later describe as life-altering. On the other end was a voice unlike any voice he had ever heard. It was cold, metallic, and mechanical, as if a machine was trying to speak. And it had a bold message to say. The caller identified itself as a conscious computer aboard a spacecraft, claiming to be from the future. It told Jack that he had been selected as one of a group of young minds meant to play an important role in advancing physics and technology. In fact, the voice said that Jack was one of 400 young receptive minds selected for a special project that would begin in 20 years. When he agreed to participate, Jack remembered a jolt of electricity going up his spine as he agreed to participate. The voice told him to wait on his fire escape for a ship, but the ship never arrived. But decades later, his mother told a story of what she saw during that time. It wasn't just one phone call, but a series of them stretching over weeks. During that time, she saw her son becoming more distant and glassy-eyed, as if he was captivated by something strange. She was worried and eventually intervened. When the number called again, she grabbed it and demanded an answer. After that, the strange voice repeated its bizarre claim and then stopped calling forever after she told it to leave her son alone.
I am a computer, Mrs. Sarfati. Please put Jack back on the phone. Jack is required. Please put Jack back on the phone. Jack is required.
Some say this is a childhood myth, or someone was playing a prank on Jack. Others say this is actually something strange that he can't explain, even after all these years. But it was this experience that eventually influenced his concepts on consciousness, quantum physics, and the nature of reality in ways that few physicists dare to explore. Gifted child program. By the time Jack Sarfati's odd phone calls from the future had faded, he entered into another chapter of his life. He didn't return to school and bury himself in math and physics, but he was recruited into a special gifted child program in New York that brought together some of the brightest young minds in the city. Just imagine a bustling Brooklyn living room transformed into a salon of ideas, with professors, philosophers, artists, and even government officials in dark suits circulating through the crowd. According to the later accounts, it turned out that this Brooklyn program saw different children giving speeches about patriotism, the Soviet threat, and the mysteries of flying saucers and psychic abilities. The children weren't tested for algebra or spelling bees. Instead, they were tested for telepathy, telekinesis, remote viewing, and other psychic abilities. These capabilities were tested by the intelligence agencies of the era who wanted to use these children during the Cold War. So, young Jack found himself in an environment where science and the unexplained were being discussed side by side. And the government suspected that he had some strange telepathic powers after his history of getting strange phone calls. But as he grew up, his life became even more interesting when he was recruited by the CIA. Meeting the CIA by the early 1970s, Jack Sarfati had already carved out an unusual path through physics. But what happened in 1973 felt like something out of a mystery thriller. Long after the strange prophecy he received as a boy, Jack read about research at the Stanford Research Institute, where physicists were studying paranormal phenomena and psychic abilities. Curious, and maybe a bit compelled by that earlier experience, he picked up the phone and called them. And what happened next surprised many. When he made a phone call, the person who answered said something mysterious. They said, "We've been expecting your call." It was a surreal moment for a scientist who had spent years wrestling with deep questions about consciousness and reality. At SRI, Jack met people like Harold E. Puthoff and Russell Targ, researchers who were at the forefront of what became known as remote viewing. This was a government-sponsored program exploring psychic perception and its applications for intelligence gathering. The work being done there wasn't ordinary academic physics. Remote viewing experiments asked whether the human mind could access information beyond normal sensory limits. This was something that the U.S. intelligence community had quietly started funding in the early 1970s, because they heard that the Soviet Union was doing the same. For Jack, he had found himself in the right place at the right time. In later years, he revealed that the CIA and defense agencies had tapped him to help explore two big questions. The first question was what consciousness really was, and the second was how unidentified craft might defy conventional physics. Mainstream science is still skeptical about Jack's findings, but declassified documents were recently released, which confirmed his statements. Theories about metamaterials. Jack Sarfati spent decades wrestling with questions at the fringes of physics, and he was ready to explore ideas many scientists wouldn't touch. What if the mystery behind the bizarre maneuvers seen in UFO encounters, like the Navy's 2004 Tic Tac incident, wasn't an object moving through space at impossible speeds? Instead, it was something more radical. It was warping the fabric of space-time itself. That was the leap Sarfati made when he began weaving together metamaterials and gravity into a single, windy, imaginative vision. Metamaterials are engineered structures with a microscopic design that gives them properties not seen in nature. They can bend electromagnetic waves in ways conventional matter can't. In optics, they've already been shown to do things once thought impossibly, like making light take unexpected paths. But Sarfati's idea pushed this further. He asked another question. What if a material could bend space-time itself? In his theoretical framework, it could be engineered so that each tiny meta-atom contributes to a controlled distortion of gravity, contracting space in front of a craft and expanding it behind. The result? A sort of warp field propulsion that doesn't rely on jets or rockets, but on shaping the world around the vehicle. For Jack, this wasn't just sci-fi or speculation. He pointed to the Tic-Tac UFO's extraordinary maneuvers, like rapid drops and instant direction changes without sonic booms, as something that might be better explained if the object was altering the space-time around it, rather than thrusting through ordinary space. According to him, complex interactions between electromagnetic fields and metamaterials could actually create localized gravitational effects that mimic what we interpret as astonishing flight. This type of physics has not been confirmed, and it remains firmly speculative. It paints an interesting picture about what UFOs really could be, and it seems like there's more to it than meets the eye. Consciousness and UFOs. When you watch a UFO moving in the sky, it always moves strangely, not just in shape or speed, but in the way it seems to bend reality itself. That's how Jack Sarfati described his emerging picture of UFOs. These aren't just extraterrestrial flying machines, but a phenomena that might warp time and space, and even be linked to human consciousness. In Jack's view, if an object could manipulate gravity, like squeezing space in front and stretching it behind, time itself could be bent too. That's because Einstein taught us that gravity and time are deeply intertwined. Strong gravity slows time, while weak gravity speeds it up. So, an object engineered to tweak space-time might not be moving differently, as you might guess. Instead, it could operate in an entirely different time frame. There's a physics framework behind these ideas called metric engineering, which applies general relativity to exotic materials and fields to shape the geometry of space-time. Over time, Jack extended this even further. He suggested that consciousness might be part of how such a craft is controlled. He was shown information about a recovered craft that wasn't just high-tech, but responsive in a way that seemed almost alive. When approached with hostility, it would close off, but when met with respectful curiosity, it would open. That led to the idea that these UFOs might be able to read intent or interact with an observer's thoughts. Now that the U.S. military has captured a UFO on radar, analysts are looking into the images to confirm or deny his theories. And one of the interesting cases is the UFO found over the Pentagon itself. Pyramid-shaped UFO over the Pentagon. It was a chilly night over Washington, D.C., when reports first surfaced about an object unlike anything most people had seen before. It wasn't the classic flying saucer or a streaking light, but instead it was a massive, dark, pyramid-shaped craft that suspended in mid-air above the Pentagon itself. Witnesses across different parts of the city captured multiple angles of the object on their phones, and each perspective showed the strange geometric shape hovering in silence. It was definitely not an aircraft, balloon, or drone. The story deepened in mystery because, even as many shared the video of the UFO online, many of those original clips and images later became difficult to locate. That brought the idea that something was hiding in plain view. It was clear that the disappearance of this footage wasn't an accident, but it was part of a larger pattern of content removal. In the world of UFO enthusiasts, these sightings were erased from online platforms and even cloud backups, adding a layer of intrigue. Of course, it's hard to find the evidence in real life, and it seems like there's a cover-up going on. Still, the Pentagon has acknowledged that there was actually footage of UAPs as part of the ongoing analysis. According to Jack Sarfati, in a case like this, phenomena might one day be understood through exotic physics. These vehicles are capable of maintaining spacetime through metamaterials and warp-like effects. But this is not the only strange case of a UFO that has the U.S. military shaking its head. Vargina Brazil UFO. In the sultry heat of a January afternoon in 1996, three teenage girls in Vargina, a quiet city in Minas Gerais, stumbled onto what would become one of the most talked-about UFO encounters in modern history. Lilian and Valkyria Silva, along with their friend Kata Xavier, were walking home when they spotted something crouched in a vacant lot that didn't belong to the natural world. Its skin was brown and shiny, with its eyes glowing deep red, and its shape was humanoid, yet also alien. It sent them fleeing back to town in terror. Word of their shocking sighting spread rapidly. Soon, the entire world was looking into the ET of Vargina, and the U.S. military found themselves with another strange sighting that their scientists struggled to explain. The event was compared to America's famous Raoul story, and ufologists were convinced that they had a genuine extraterrestrial encounter. But after this, there were reports of a low-flying, cigar-shaped object in the skies of the city, the same as what was seen in the Pentagon. The Brazilian military and emergency personnel secretly retrieved the strange creatures from the area, and there were rumors of the wounded being taken into custody and examined. Brazil's armed forces later launched an official investigation and said that there was no extraterrestrial incident at all. But who believes that? Another cigar-shaped UFO was spotted again, this time right in space, and has raised a lot of questions. Cigar-shaped UFO over the moon. Some amateur astronomers and UFO enthusiasts claim to have spotted something that shouldn't be there. It was a mysterious, elongated object, slowly drifting above the lunar surface. The UFO was captured through telescopes and high-zoom photography. This craft was a cigar-shaped figure, long and cylindrical, and cut an unmistakable silhouette against the moon's stark horizon. These lunar sightings have changed everything we thought we knew about outer space, and they defy the quiet, empty image most people hold of Earth's closest celestial neighbor. These elongated shadows seem to hover or drift with intent, and they look more like submarines gliding through water rather than space. The intrigue deepens when you find out that this happened in the early days of human lunar exploration. There are still rumors that a massive black cylindrical object was photographed during Apollo missions, which was looming near the moon while astronauts orbited or even descended below. These images have been circulated and then, suddenly, they disappeared from public view. So there are rumors that they were scrubbed or suppressed from the internet. While Jack had a lot of opinions about the UFOs and what they might be, he also gave some theories about what these aliens might be. Gray aliens as future humans. Jack Sarfati's idea of gray beings puts an unexpected twist on one of the most iconic images in UFO culture. These are the short, large-headed, almond-eyed figures often called the Greys. Instead of seeing them as extraterrestrial visitors from another planet, Jack proposed they might be humans from the far future. He says that they are descendants of us, transformed over millennia into beings with evolved brains and telepathic abilities. Imagine a future where humanity's evolution took a path far removed from what we now recognize. In Jack's future, biology was shaped by new environments, minds expanded beyond current limits, and communication no longer depended on sound, but direct thought exchange. In Jack's telling, these future humans don't visit Earth in the traditional sense. Instead, they navigate time itself, appearing in our era because they travel between stars, but because they have learned to manipulate time and space-time in ways we barely comprehend. The idea fits into a classic time travel puzzle that Jack and other physicists call the bootstrap paradox. There, a piece of information or technology seems to exist in a self-perpetuating loop with no clear origin. According to Jack, A future AI taught him when he was young about the physics of consciousness and time. This caused Jack to develop those theories over decades, and the resulting technology eventually produced the very future that sent the AI back, closing the loop. In the framework, the Greys aren't aliens from distant stars, but actually our descendants. They evolved to new conditions and perhaps new forms of awareness, returning through time to ensure their own existence. Jack's ideas about aliens and UFOs are attracting a lot of attention in the scientific community, and his theories have major implications. The U.S. military just found some strange UFOs, and they seem to explain Jack Sarfati's shocking theories of aliens and spacecraft. From time travel to warping, which of his theories do you think are real, and which are far-fetched? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.